Are you looking to build influence? Or maybe to drive more traffic? But bottom line, you want to change the game. You've come to the right place. Welcome to the Business Building Book Club. We're going to give you the tools you need to succeed, both online and in person. Brought to you by Coach Molly and Three Pines Leadership. Welcome one and welcome all to the Business Building Book Club. I'm your host, Coach Molly from Three Pines Leadership, and thank you again for taking this part of your day to spend here building your business, building your influence, and pushing yourself to the next level. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Deal with it. Connect with me on all of your social media platforms. I'm Coach Molly with an E on Twitter, or Three Pines Leadership everywhere else. You can connect to us on your favorite podcast platforms and in video format on the Three Pines Leadership YouTube channel. This season, we are diving into book number 2. It's season number 2, book number 2. See how that works? Book number 2 in Russell Brunson's Secrets trilogy. And this book is Expert Secrets. The Underground Playbook. Let's see if I remember it. I don't. The Underground Playbook for converting your online visitors into lifelong customers. I promise by the end of this season, I will remember what that line is, but not yet. So last week, I read to you this awesome chapter about future-based causes. And this episode, we're going to talk about it. If you remember, get your copy. You want to follow along, leadershipmade.com/expert-secrets. It's all linked below. Let's jump into the conversation because I want to bring back one of my favorite guests, Zuzana. She came on for one of the first episodes this season. She's coming back because when we first were chatting, we touched on it, the idea of taking on an identity and having resistance to that. And I want to dive deeper into that because this whole chapter is about how do you do that? How do you manipulate? How do you convince your people that they're going to be part of this identity? How do you convince them to take on this cape? And we had some conversations last time about resistance to that. So I thought we'd dive back into it. How do you feel? How are you doing today?
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having me back. I'm feeling great and look forward to this conversation today.
So to remind everyone or to tell people who didn't unfortunately check into that last episode, which you should do, by the way, everyone, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, so my name is Zuzana Dobro, and I'm a leader in design thinking transformation for entrepreneurs, and I help them to attract their dream customer so they can create consistent growth in their business, solve with purpose, and be an independent entrepreneur.
What is design thinking?
Design thinking is a philosophy, and it's been around probably for 30, maybe even 50 years. And it has been used by top creative houses and design studios all around the globe. And it really helps to bring on board into the client's team or into the client's project a certain type of methodologies or frameworks. So it's not one rigid thing. It really depends what is there to be solved, and it's really, really, really good when it comes to problem solving, from smaller problems to big problems. And usually, for example, in tech world, it's used a lot to validate their ideas before they're actually built. So it's all about finding out, what the customers are really desiring, and finding out what the business thinks they are desiring, and then matching them or not. Finding out the assumptions and basically finding out what is not going to be working, and also it validates with the customers very fast. It could be a very like a skeleton product. Where they build you would build a quick prototype, and then you would take it to actual customers, to actually give a feedback and just know if this is feasible or not.
So it's like the scientific method of business.
Scientific when it comes to data, absolutely, because at the end of the day, data will tell you. It will not lie to you. It's like with anything when it comes to selling. If people are not buying, your data is telling you they're not buying, and you cannot fool anyone else. But apart from, science, it's also to do a lot with psychology and understanding, why something is not resonating, why people are not actually caring about it, where did we misfire completely. So there's a lot to do, I would say, with psychology and being able to reframe the questions, reframe the problems, especially when businesses get stuck and they don't know. They're like so stuck they don't know where is the problem, right? So you're really uncovering bit by bit certain things, and then just trying to help them understand what is the next direction they need to go, or what they should be looking into.
Oh, that's fantastic. And what kind of customers do you work with?
So it's twofold for me. From my commercial career, I came from the background of working for primarily for the past 3 years for SaaS platforms, so for tech. And we are talking about the bigger projects, but also for startups. So, it really depends, what the budget is and what they're trying to achieve. So I am the behind the scene specialist that would be working on a very interesting project, usually under NDA. So I cannot disclose a lot of stuff that I've done yet, but some I can, which is awesome. But usually I will be working on pretty complex, SaaS applications or software development, but also on a physical product, creation. So it really depends. But yeah, it's all digital for me. So that's one fold. And now I'm also taking this knowledge and I'm really bringing it to smaller businesses and entrepreneurs, because this is something that has not been really, thought in this space of anyone starting up the business and all running already a smaller business, how certain things are done. Because companies that understand design thinking and they understand design-driven decision making are thriving. They have they have teams, they have a lot of experts actually they hired into the teams to solve these things for them. Where obviously, when you're a smaller company, when you're, entrepreneur, you can't afford it. You can't afford this. It's a massive brain power, really, of experience. So, yeah, I really want to bring, I'm bringing this knowledge bit by bit for the entrepreneurs, so they can start using it, also troubleshooting their things, creating new products and validating them super fast.
Oh, I love it. So you like complex problems, I see.
I I don't know if I like them, but they are, I look at them as a beautiful challenge.
Mm.
So, anyone trying to solve complex things on their own, that's a different thing. But I usually would be coming in and work with a team. And, that team has everyone has a certain expertise in that team. And that team is trying to solve something pretty complex. But they all speak a different language. So, and they all have their own assumptions how things should be done. And they do not know how to talk to each other. And they think that they know, but, what the end result should be for the customers. But they don't have the skills to be able to actually really grasp and, really elicit that information from a customer. So this is where I would come in. And I'm almost like sometimes I feel like I have parachuted into the battlefield, trying to solve someone else's things in a business in a good way, where I am really creating that bridge between, the world of the customer and the world of the business, and what they really want to bring, to customers. But many times it's really misfiring. It's just many times it's built on assumptions, and then they wonder why it's not taking off, because it's not built together with customer. And I am the voice of the customer for the business most of the time. I think that's the best way to describe it. I am the voice of the customer
Through the data.
Also you can have a data, or also through talking and becoming the customer. So my role is that really understand what people are doing, what they are talking, how are they doing, their work or day to day. So I become them.
Oh,
It's
that's
almost
neat.
like, look, tell me.
I was going to say totally like different than what we're talking about on the podcast today, but I definitely want to ask, do you ever have to take on the role of a customer that is so counter to who you are and try and put yourself into that role? And is it, if you do, is it difficult to do, or is it easy to just put on the hat of someone else?
That's a great question. It's easy for me to do when I know how to snap out of that. So it's trained. This is all, learnable skills, and it's all got to do with empathy. Yet, if you know how to do that, you also need to understand that you need to have, again, clear boundaries. This is something what we talked about, on another podcast. You need to know where your boundary is so you don't leak your energy. And to be honest, like, I'm not perfect. Like, it took me some years to actually learn this, because I would leak my energy. I would get into their worlds too much, and then I wouldn't know how to snap out. And it would hurt me. Like I would be like, ooh, like, what is this? Like, this is too much, too intense. But for me, it really is easy applying, certain way to approach things, and really be super, really apply a powerful empathy into the world of that person. And another thing is super useful is just be very curious. I'm very curious. I really want to know what this person is going through and what they are doing. Do I agree with all of their behaviors, or, am I there and do I want to be like them sometimes? Like, no, absolutely not. But if I don't feel through what they are going through, I won't be able to help them.
Yeah. Oh.
Like, I really, like, logically, yes, you can tell them all the things they should be doing and, everything. But if you don't feel through what they are feeling through, you won't be able to use an ethical persuasion or an ethical way to actually see what is the root cause of their struggle, whatever that is. Whatever that if there is a problem or they are struggling with, unless you are able to, make your logical way through it and also feel through it, you're only addressing one part of the problem, basically. And this is what most of the people are actually doing. They're using a lot of logical way of trying to problem solve, where people are emotional. They buy based on emotions. This is science.
Yeah.
Emotional buying, I don't know what the percentage is, probably 90% or something like that. And, people buy based on emotions, and then they justify logically for themselves and for their brain, because they need to connect the dots, right? Your frontal cortex, your logical brain basically needs to have a justification for your emotional decision that you made anyways. Because you need to justify it for yourself, you need to justify it for your family, for your spouse, whatever that is, okay? So this is how we are wired as human beings.
And I think connecting to that, we can connect back to the chapter we're talking about today in Expert Secrets, by talking about that emotional connection, and what draws us is that emotional connection. So this chapter is all about giving out capes. And when you came on the show before, we talked about having those different capes. We talked about taking on the identity of a funnel hacker, or taking on the identity of a lady boss, or a lady hacker, which is what I do. So do you have that in your business? What do you feel about those identities?
So for me, really, thinking about where I want to take my clients. So this is a future pacing. You could tap into the future pacing hero, right? Also, you could take that concept on. So for me, really is to lead people, not lead, to guide people to become an independent entrepreneurs. And they will know what does it mean for them, because independence and be and feel being independent has a different meaning to different people. And I do know, who my dream customer is, and where is it for them. So this is where I'm taking them. This is that, this is that dream. If I draw the picture of future, right, where I want to take you is this: I want you to become an independent entrepreneur.
My definition of what independent entrepreneur is going to be different than the next person, and it's going to be different than what your dream client's definition is going to be. Does that create clashes, or is that something that we thrive in? Is that a benefit to us?
I think it's creates I'm looking for the word in English. It creates richness. So diversity, it creates just really a beautiful combination of the flavors, because that's essentially who we are. Like each one of us, we are individual souls having an individual experience. And I'm not talking about like individual, like I'm this, I'm not talking about like from an ego perspective, but essentially, we really are unique. Yet we have so many similarities, and strive for very similar things. So for me, you having a different type of basically idea about what the independent entrepreneur means is perfect. If you know it. If you don't know it, then you're going through a struggle, basically, which means you need to find that what does it actually mean for you, or you just don't know how to express it. But inside, like deep inside, you might actually feel it, like it is, you just cannot, you can't put it into the words yet, right? So that's when you through your journey, you will start realizing what it actually means, and you'll get that clarity eventually.
And through your lived experiences, you've had identities placed on you. Because you mentioned last time you were on the show that you grew up in the communist era, where that identity was placed on you. And when you were able to break free of that and find the ability to be yourself and to define yourself, you realize that you can take on whatever cape and identity you feel like. What was that like for you?
Very liberating, once I realized that what was happening in my beliefs and everything, and all that experience, growing up as a child, and obviously, when you think about it from the movement perspective, communism, right, has a cause. There is a cause, right, and they have a set of beliefs, right. What is it, like a manifesto, right? If you read Communist Manifesto, it's clear. It's essentially very clear, right? So it's really having to have that identity as a kid without you noticing or realizing what's actually happening. It's tough, because when you think about it, when you're a kid, up until you are 8 years old, you're like a sponge. You don't have your logical brain fully, developed yet, which means you are just observing. You're like you're in a hypnosis state where anything that's put into your head will stay there, and you will become, that. There is. I think it was, who said it? I think there was a motto from I don't know if it is a Jesuits or someone, but it basically goes along the line that give me a child until they are 8 years old, and basically I will completely screw it now.
I will mold it into the
and I will own that person forever.
Yeah.
Basically, and it's so truth. It's very true. Like it's, again, this is based on science. Just study a bit of a psychology and neuroscience, and you will understand. So having that conditioning, as a kid, was pretty rough. I was very fortunate also that I had people around me that were also telling me different things. This is not how it used to be, So, your elders are very, very, very smart and experienced. You should always listen to your elders, because they will tell you, because they live through different times and different setup of the society and beliefs. So, for me, once I realized that, okay, this is now gone, I don't have to comply. I can really go and explore who am I, what my identity is. And, if you ask me if I fully know, my identity, probably the answer would be no, because I'm constantly learning and growing. I'm constantly probably shedding away still some stuff that, my beliefs, my old beliefs that I had. So I think it's still beautifully molding, and I don't think it will ever stop, because if you think about the universe is constantly evolving. So what does anyone, if anyone thinks that I have now evolved and that's it, it's not true. Like you would be going against physics, basically. You're
Exactly.
constantly gonna be growing and evolving, basically, and be okay with it. It's just part of the nature, I would say.
Exactly. And psychology, understanding those psychological concepts is incredibly powerful, because we've already discussed there are negative implications to doing that. I love studying communism and political movements. So I love the variants of communism as well, in that we have all the way to the extreme of like Pol Pot's kind of his mentality of everyone should be treated exactly the same. Everyone will eat exactly the same amount. There is no difference to people. And I see that as being the furthest extreme, the worst possible outcome. But even in Russell's books, which we've all agree are based in goodness, based in gratitude, and based on changing the world for the better, he's already asking us to create a manifesto, to create an identity for our customer. So we know that doing this can be really, really bad, but it can also be really good. And we've talked already in this episode about creating that flexibility, and that flexibility and bringing in a space for diversity in our definitions of things. So Russell talks about how his catchphrase is you're always just one funnel away, ... because his customers are going to fill in what we're one funnel away from. And in your business, it's the same thing. It's that independent entrepreneur definition. So what do you think about the power that we have to go in both directions, and what is our obligation?
I think it's like anyone who studies these concepts, and when you think about it, this is a timeless wisdom. So anyone studying this and really starting to apply it in their life and in their business has a responsibility for understanding the consequences they are creating. So for me, it goes back to their values, and it goes back to them wanting to be ethical or not, because there is a lot of manipulation going on, and it's not just a business, I mean, in general, and it's been there. If you study history, like it's you can learn a lot of persuasion and manipulation tactics. So it all goes down to a person, and it will show the true face of the person, and how they will apply it. And I would say more people educate themselves about certain things and certain tactics being used. And, it's very subconscious, very subliminal. You can see it a lot in politics, a lot. And if people are not aware of it, then, they will unfortunately fall for it. And they will be, they will believe, basically. They will think that these thoughts or these ideas are their own, but no, they actually were planted in. So, I wish that these are the things that they will be teaching in the schools, in a normal schools.
Exactly. I remember when I was in grade school,
give power to people.
Yeah, when I was in grade school and the internet was becoming more popular, and we had a whole class on computer technology and how to search for things and all of that kind of stuff. And we had a whole lesson every single year about media literacy and understanding bias in the media. And I wish that had continued every year, to start talking about influence and media in every aspect of our lives, from politics to business to the messaging we're seeing. And even here in Canada, we're dealing with, we have a large organization. I won't name names, but anyone who pays attention to the news here will know what I'm talking about. There's a large organization that is incredibly future-based in their cause. They want to change the world. They want to inspire a whole generation of people to do better and to give back. Great cause and all, but it's really starting to cross a line into being cult-ish, in having that one frame of mind and not being open to listening to other perspectives and hearing how how these lessons or how these manifestos or how these identities are affected by other people. And I say this because when we were chatting before, it really opened my eyes. I had this aha moment when you were talking about your experience in that communist bubble, and taking on and having that identity forced on you. It was this aha moment of, wait, oh yeah, that's a perspective that I haven't stepped into to find the empathy for my clients. I've only ever looked at my clients coming from this same mindset, this same perspective. So to me, it's important to not cross that line into cultish and not push people into the sheep herding mentality, but instead to create a space that opens up diversity and allows for those open-ended questions so we can all define what success means together, I think. Yeah.
That sounds beautiful. Is it possible with majority of people? I really want to say I hope so.
Yeah.
You know, it really depends. But yeah, you're right. You know, what's really funny that certain movements and certain beliefs that are like movements that are started have, they most probably have a very good positive, cause behind them, right? Belief, okay? And then, they get people on board, and, you really start creating that, cause-driven movement, and and people start running behind you, and, they become that movement. They become, like that voice. And what happens also sometimes is that, like, there's a very good lecture by ex what's I don't remember his name, but basically there used to be a guy, a Russian, that used to be working for KGB, and he escaped. He deserted basically, and he gives a very good lecture of the tactics. There are 4 steps that how you take over states or different governments of different countries, and what is what are they doing, and how they are leveraging a new movement. So to anyone listening, all the information is out there. If you search for it, you will see, and you'll be able to see similarities that are happening even right now. Like, I could really pinpoint with a very good accuracy, this is the stage we are in right now. But I don't want to get political and none of that, okay? This is not the space to do that. But what I'm trying to say in here is that I lived through a different regime, and I can see a lot of similarities in the world in some places. And, it's really fascinating how easy it is for people to forget the history. Like, it's mind-blowing, really, about like new generation. Like, we never went through it, so we don't really know. And this is the thing, you haven't been through it, so you really don't know, So for me, like, when you look at, like, yesterday I was discussing this with a friend, and we were talking about, what is the difference between communism and fascism?
There's not much.
Not
It's
much.
a circle. It's not a straight line.
Really, really not much.
Really I think the difference, honestly, is how self-centered the leader becomes. How far away from the us versus them are we collectively working together, or are we creating a difference between us versus them? But we could go on about this for an hour.
No. But look, like, one of the timeless strategies that has been used across the globe when it comes to, politics or just wars or whatever, creating movements. One of them, the most used that I've seen recently is us versus them. Yep. And this is used also in marketing and in creating your movements. And, this is a strategy that has been there. This is a timeless one. So anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, please research on it, so you are aware. So you can actually look for the patterns. Look for the patterns where this is actually used, in different circumstances around the world, different countries, in different industries, whatever it is. Just look for it, and you will start seeing, you will start realizing, what's been used and how, what's been used ethically, who is using it in a very unethical way, and how easy it actually it is to implement into the masses, if I have to say it that way.
Yeah, I became obsessed with these ideas of creating movements and influence and stuff when I was a teenager, because I was a big punk rocker and I was all about like Anti-Flag and all of these big anti-establishment kind of bands. And I mentioned Anti-Flag, and I think I've mentioned them before in a podcast episode somewhere. But they have this song called The Anatomy of My Enemy, or The Anatomy of Your Enemy. And it's a step-by-step guide on um, how to create that us versus them, and how to peg your enemy and start a war. And it's for one of the first steps is create that us versus them, define who your enemy is, and that will define who your people are. And then you create propaganda and you change the way that people see the world, and you keep pushing that one idea, and you don't create room for any debate on that. You don't create any room for any flexibility. So on the other hand, on the other side of that is what you were talking about before, and that's that flexibility in your definition. And I love that. I find so much peace and possibility in the idea of that. And I want to use that and kind of rework the way that I market my own business, and kind of reframe my own phrase and my own manifesto for my people too.
Yeah, like I go by one very simple principle, which is let people decide for themselves, in a way that if I am forcing something upon someone, I'm taking their free will away. And that's one of the, I would say, universal laws that do not take away someone else's freedom to make their own decision. So everyone has a free will, and this is what I believe in. And it's that's one of the principles. So anything that I create and I want to do, even if I'm creating a woman of independent entrepreneurs, that's amazing, because this is who I am. I'm a free spirit, and anyone that resonates with that will join me, and we would will want to be in my company, and I'll be a very grateful guide for them. But I don't feel myself to be a leader, because leader has a different connotations, and everyone again as a leader, yes, I'm saying I'm a leader in design thinking transformation for entrepreneurs. That's very niche. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to, so that's a very niche definition, because it's very much related to design thinking. But when it comes to the overall essence, who I am as a person, I definitely, resonate a lot as being a guide, because that goes into the more personal relationships, because I personally, I don't think that I can tell, or I want to tell people what to do, but I can guide them, and they can decide if they're gonna do it or not. So I'm not gonna force them or shove anything down their throats just for the sake of it, because I've seen it, I experienced it as a kid, and that's not the way to go. That's really that's really just crashing down that freedom of choice of that individual person, and we are all individual.
Yeah. I love the idea of a guide. I do a lot of like guide hiking, or hiking guiding, I guess you'd call it, where I take people on a journey. And yes, I know the path, so therefore I am leading the group. But at the same time, I like to think of myself as a guide rather than a leader in that role, because I'm showing people something that I think is awesome, and I'm letting them have their own experience. What they're going to see along the way is going to be different for every person in every group that I take through the same path or the same framework, but how they experience it, what they get out of it, is going to be different. So when you take on that role of a guide, you allow for that experience to happen, as opposed to taking on the role of a leader where you're saying you have to follow it this way, and these are the exact steps. This is how it's going to work. This is what you're going to experience, period.
Yeah, that is a beautiful example, explaining this concept and what is the difference between the leader and guide. And, this is exactly it. Because like, imagine that we are hiking together and you are the guide, and then suddenly, let's say, something happens to you, you get injured and you cannot guide anymore, or we are in a very dire situation out there. If I know that I know what to do, or I have experience, or I just have that moment of clarity and it's like, this is what we're gonna do, I suddenly become a leader in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because like in the situations that are more challenging, or where your life is threatened, certain people naturally step into the role of their leaders, and other people need to follow because they don't have that confidence to do. So that's when the leader becomes really powerful, and important identity for someone to step into. And that, I can be that, and I've done that for people. Okay, this is what we're gonna do, and this is how I'm gonna do it, and just trust me on this, and I take the lead.
Yeah.
However, doing that all the time, first of all, requires a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Like a lot of, there is a lot of power behind it. But also it takes away, as you said, takes away that opportunity for people to go and explore and have their own experience, because they have to be very, focused on what's happening. So there is a difference, for me, when it comes to, leader and guide. And I, like, naturally prefer to be guide, because guide is not step 1, step 2, step 3. For me, that's boring. For me, it's like, here is the galaxy. Wow, so many stars. Okay, let's explore. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
kind of like saying to your friends, check out this really cool space I found. Check out this really cool adventure spot. Let's go explore together.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. So that opens the opportunity for people to have their own experience and perception of the things. So that's why I think guide on a wider spectrum, for me, it's so important. And when I need to lead on certain things, so I can tell you, like, I do for teams sometimes innovation workshops, and in those I can be a guide.
Yeah.
Because I explore with a team. But then there are different workshops of creativity where I am a leader, because I have a certain personalities in that workshop that need to be under control. I need to own the frame, basically. And I become a leader. So again, I step into that identity because I know this is what's needed. And then at the end of the day, people thank me. It's like, oh, that was amazing. It's really funny.
I love that, because it's like what we talked about before, of having that coat rack of different capes. So in that one workshop, you're wearing multiple capes at the same time. And so it's having that flexibility and understanding that we can, in the same moment, we can be more than one identity at the same time, and lead our people in the way that they need to be led or guided, or have their hand held or pushed off the cliff, whatever they need. We're there for them.
Yeah, with parachute.
Maybe.
Push them off and throw the parachute after them.
Good luck!
But, I seen skydivers doing that, so it's fine. Everything is possible. But hey.
Oh, that's terrifying. So before we sign off, whoa, there goes my mic again. Before we sign off, any last words of advice or wisdom, or how can people get into your world if they want to learn more?
Sure, thank you. So people can definitely find me on my website, which is zuzanadobro.com.
Link below.
Link below, yeah. You're gonna put the link on. And in there, I have a links to my social media. So just send me a friend request on LinkedIn or on Facebook. I'm always very happy to talk to new people, and just reach out. I'll be very happy to have you in my world.
Oh, fantastic! Thank you so much for joining me. All right, everyone. It's been another episode of the Business Building Book Club. I'm Coach Molly from 3 Pines Leadership. Thank you again for spending time with us. And until next time, remember, get your own copy of Expert Secrets at leadershipmade.com/expert-secrets. You didn't think I was going to say that, did ya? So until next time, my friends, remember, I love you. Be excellent to each other.